Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. Continuing adventures with Anoop Verma. He says, and I quote, "I posted this excerpt because the objectivists keep harping about reason as if it makes them omniscient." Anoop, what are the objectivists saying that would say that? And which objectivists are saying that? I want names because I'm going to humiliate them in public. He says, well, I don't want anyone to be humiliated. It's a little bit late for that. That happened when you started posting this garbage, Anoop. He says, I'm trying to say that you have to use reason. You have no alternative on that. But you should stop deluding yourself that reason will make you infallible. It won't. Who is saying reason will make you infallible? Now he mentions the lexicon, and I've got the lexicon here on the screen, so we will get to that. He says, you may reach a wrong choice despite using reason. Now, I don't know what objectivists you've been talking to, Anoop, that would give you any impression other than that reason could lead to the wrong choice. So let me give you a good formulation of why reason is what we use, why it's the only thing we can or should use. Reason is the only thing that can bring you to the correct choice. Okay? That does not mean that it will always and only bring you to the correct choice. It is simply the only thing that can bring you to the correct choice. If you do reach a correct decision, you will do so through reason and through no other method. That is what we mean. We do not mean that every decision reason is used to make is infallibly correct. We're simply saying that if you do come to a correct conclusion, you got there through reason. And you're only going to get the correct conclusions by using reason. It's a very strong claim. Another way to formulate that is the right answer for the wrong reason is the wrong answer. Let me give you a couple simple examples. You form an anti-slavery group. We hate slavery. Screw slavery. And this guy saddles up with you and he says, I'm against slavery. And you say, well, why are you here with us? And he says, I like to read the Bible. The Bible tells me slavery no good. Right? Well, he hasn't been reading the Bible, has he? But you shrug and you say, well, all right, we'll let him in the group because he's against slavery, right? And you can see where that's going to go. Either 10 years or 50 years down the road, either him or his kids are going to actually open the Bible and read it, and they're going to see that it's not against slavery. Slavery is mandated by Christianity. So then you've got these people in your group that you said were your allies. They're not. They got to this anti-slavery thing through the wrong reason. So they're not actually there with the right answer. They're not actually against slavery. Oh boy, they're bothering me. Okay. Uranium. The correct answer about uranium is that it's warm. It lets off heat. Okay? Now the correct reason for that, if you believe that uranium lets off heat, for the correct reason, now that's the right answer, it does let off heat. So you've got the right answer, whoever you are, looking at uranium. Now, you better understand the reason it's letting off heat, hadn't you? See, the correct answer for the wrong reason is the wrong answer. It's letting off heat because Zeus had a battle with Dionysus and his sword shattered, and uranium is the leftovers from Zeus's sword, and therefore it glows warmth with the power of gods. And and it's magical, and if you take it in pill form, it'll make you more strong, right? So if you believe it for the wrong reason, then you're really in trouble. You've got to get the right answer, the uranium lets off heat, for the right reason, because it's radioactive, or else you're really in trouble, okay? This goes for everything in reality. You either get to it through a logical reasoning process, or you've not gotten there through any good means whatsoever, and you're nowhere. You're like standing on a post in the middle of a lake, and you move in any direction, and you will again be swimming if you have found any solid ground at all. Okay, he says that on the Ayn Rand lexicon, several different definitions of reason are given, some of which contradict each other. I think the role of reason has been hyped beyond what is justified. Alright, so I don't know what you would replace it with or how you would mitigate it, but it doesn't need to be mitigated in the way that you're saying. There are no objectivists who are of repute that are going around saying that reason makes you infallible. And I want names, Anoop. And I'm going to humiliate people. If you can give me any names of any objectivists that are giving off the impressions that you're saying, I'm going to have a good time humiliating some people. But I don't think you're right. Okay. For instance, he says, the first definition says, reason is the faculty that identifies and integrates the material provided by man's senses. Fair enough. How is this possible, he says? Our senses are automatic. Right. There. So, what happens is the information comes in, and it's in there. Now, the senses are automatic. But what you think of those senses is not automatic. Right? You can see a vehicle flash by and not pay any attention to it and not focus on it. And for all you know, it was a truck, maybe it was a car. The material provided by your senses has to be identified. You have to look at it. You have to focus on it. That shouldn't be controversial. He says our senses are automatic. There's no conscious effort you need to apply sensation. Right, the sensations just come. Even perceptions are automatic. No, not so much. You'll find that if you know something about reality, you can perceive things a little bit differently, right? Your sensations are automatic. Your perceptions are influenced by your knowledge, right? Optical illusions are an example of this. An optical illusion might fool you if you're not familiar with it, but your knowledge would allow you to be familiar with it. So your perceptions are involved in reason. Your reason and your perceptions go hand in hand. It's not true that perception is automatic. I mean, it is. Your eyes just see things, but perception's automatic in the sense that you see. If you're colorblind, you see gray instead of purple. But your reason you use your reason to identify the fact that your perception is possibly not accurate, and you know this from past experience and other people telling you this, checking with reality, checking with objective reality. So perceptions are kind of automatic, but we are involved in them. I'm afraid that's a little bit more of a fuzzy line than you might be willing to give. Reason comes into play, he says, now quoting again, reason comes into play only in the conceptual stage where links are being formed between different perceptions to develop broader concepts. Now, maybe I can give you that. I don't see why that giving you that would give you anything. But he continues, also, if reason can integrate material from man's senses, then it should be there in animals too, because they too have the ability of gaining sensory information. Why should animals have reason just because they have sensory information? I mean, single-celled amoeba can have a light patch on the edge of them that is technically sensory information. Does that mean that they have reason? Animals have reason? Now, I don't know what good this is doing, ladies and gentlemen, except any of you that have ever found Anoop Verma's posts interesting or convincing, maybe this will let you see what utter stupid garbage it is that he's posting about. Nonsense, garbage. Okay. Why would animals have reason? I mean, do you want me to go into our brain? The size of our brains? 1,500 cubic centimeters in a human and 400 in a, whatever, monkey or whatever? I mean, okay. Such errors are in every definition, or almost every definition of reason. Such errors. What errors? Okay. So while the objectivists call their philosophy a philosophy of reason, they're confused about what reason is. Somebody's confused about what reason is. Once you check Rand's errors on reason in her lexicon, you should do a second video praising me this time. Oh, Anoop. The Ayn Rand lexicon. Here we go. Reason is the faculty that identifies and integrates the material provided by man's senses from the objectivist ethics. Standard. We can begin there. That's easy enough. We actually don't need to investigate that. We can just go from there. Reason integrates man's perceptions by means of forming abstractions or conceptions, thus raising man's knowledge from the perceptual level, which he shares with animals, to the conceptual level, which he alone can reach. Now let me just pause there. Abstractions or conceptions. An abstraction is something that doesn't actually physically exist. A conception could be something that actually physically exists. You conceive of a chair. An abstraction would be government or justice, right? But the chair is identified through reason, and so is justice identified through reason. Now you might ask, how does reason work in this way? It works through measurement omission. Let's look at a chair. One's made of aluminum, one's made of wood, and one is a beanbag. But all of them serve the same purpose. They are in human abodes, they are made by humans, they are made for humans. Now maybe you say, oh, it's not in a human abode, I took it outside and it's in the garden. Screw you, alright? Let's see. The method which reason employs in this process is logic. And logic is the art of non-contradictory identification. So when you reach a contradiction, you're in trouble. Check again. Now, another example was justice, we were going to say. So you look at several examples of justice. Somebody robbed his store and they beat him up. Somebody beat up his wife and they put him in jail. This country invaded another country to try to take their oil fields, and a coalition of other countries came and drove them back, right? And you leave the measurements out. You don't worry about the measurements of each case. In this case, it was a grocery store with one person. In that case, it was this. In that case, it was a whole country. But you say somebody did something they shouldn't have, and retaliation was brought against them. And you just leave out all the measurements, okay? That's a concept, okay? Now, identifying concepts and checking with reality to make sure your concept makes sense is the use of reason. That is the method of the use of reason. Let me give you an example where somebody didn't use reason to reach a concept. They were very careless about it. They had a concept called fish, and they included whales in this. Now, they didn't use reason. They just came to this swimming about. They didn't build up to it through any chain. They didn't start through any observations. They don't care to observe reality. See, that's what reason is you look at reality and you identify the information from reality that came through your senses. They don't want to do that. All they say is the fish, the things that are in the sea are fish. Now they don't know what whales or dolphins are. When their skeletons are different, they have to breathe air. There's all kinds of things that are different about whales and fish and dolphins. But you couldn't get through to these people because they haven't built up to that concept through reason and logic. It's a very surface level. Just they see them swimming, bam, there's their concept. First level concept. Immediacy, a perception, Okay. Reason is the art of non-contradictory identification. So, eventually these people would come to a contradiction, wouldn't they? They would say, fish are these things that swim in the ocean, and then you would ask for a little bit more information about fish, and they would give you more information about fish, and then you would ask for more information about fish, and they'd give you more information about fish, and you'd say, wait a minute, that doesn't match the whales and the dolphins over here. And then they'd have to back up a step, and now they're in a contradiction, and now they're dancing like a hippopotamus. The way a hippopotamus would dance is not elegant, and that's what people who are in the middle of contradictions look like. And that's where they would be if they were trying to explain in what way dolphins and whales are the same as fish, because dolphins and whales are removed from fish in myriad ways. So, you either get to your answer through reason and logic and non-contradictory identification, or you will be messing around in a big vat of contradictions. I don't know what is the problem with that, because reason and logic could get you to that very first stage where you say things that are out there swimming in that water are fish, right? Now, all you've ever done is caught a few fish on fishing poles. Your people are so primitive you don't build boats. Eventually, your people start building boats, you catch bigger fish, and you meet these really huge fish called whales, right? So in your context, when you defined what a fish was, you actually didn't have perceptions. You didn't have perceptual information. You didn't have sensory information that told you anything else. So it was actually a perfectly logical conclusion for you to make at first, in the beginning and early stages of knowledge. If you got to that conclusion through reason and logic, that the things out there swimming are fish, if you got to that through reason and logic, then you're going to be able to reevaluate and correct it when you find that those things out there swimming have some pretty big differences between them. You're going to be just perfectly happy expanding your knowledge about these things. How will you expand your knowledge? You will take in sensory information from reality, and you will integrate it. You will build new concepts. You will abstract the measurements. You'll see whales, because you haven't seen them before. You'll say there was this big thing that came and blew air up. Blew water and air went spouting up. Never saw such before. And then you see them again, and again, and again. And you leave out the measurement of, it was cold on this day, it was warm on this day. On this day I was down by the Sound, and the other day I was up by the river outlet. On this day, I was in a canoe. On the other day I was with people. I saw 3 of them one day, I saw 1 the other day. You leave out all those, and you start forming a new concept, and you call it the great fish that blows air, and you've integrated a new concept, because most fish, you've noticed, don't blow air. They stay under the water, and they don't need to come up to breathe or to deal with the air or do anything funky like that. So you look at reality, you get information about reality through your senses, you abstract you leave off the measurements, you omit the measurements, and you abstract the meaning, and you form a new concept, and your knowledge grows. And when it grows in this way, you are fallible at every single step. The magic of it is that you can correct it. You're fallible, but you are reasonable. And when you are reasonable, you know where you are in the chain of knowledge and why. And so when you meet some fact that contradicts what you have and where you're at, it is a chance for you to gain new knowledge and expand your knowledge. It doesn't destroy your knowledge or send you into a fit of contradiction or send you back to square one or prove that you are fallible. Oh my goodness, we thought he was infallible. Whoever said you're infallible with reason? No. Reason is not how to be infallible. Reason is the only way to get any correct answer at all. Only reason could tell you why it is that uranium is warm. Only reason would tell you that. It lets off warmth. You could do anything you wanted to figure out why it lets off warmth. But unless you do scientific experiments, you're never going to know. It's there's no way around it. Anoop, Verma. Reason is the only thing we have. Nobody has said it is infallible, so you're attacking a straw man. What else can I say here? Reason is man's only means of grasping reality and of acquiring knowledge. The only means. And therefore, the rejection of reason means that men should act regardless of and or in contradiction to the facts of reality. Anoop, you will actually be acting in contradiction to the facts of reality if you use anything other than reason. For you to go about saying that reason is limited is as stupid as that post was. And that post was mightily stupid. You haven't defended it. What is this garbage? Animals should have reason too? There are different definitions of reason, some of which contradict each other. I'll just do one more. We'll see if we can find a contradiction here. Reason is a faculty that man has to exercise by choice. Thinking is not automatic. In any hour and issue of his life, man is free to think or to evade that effort. Where are the contradictions? He says, for instance, reason is the faculty that identifies and integrates the material provided by man's senses. There's a contradiction in that. What? All right. If anybody took Anoop seriously, now you know that you don't need to. Anoop, what the hell, dude?